With the recent-ish release of Risk of Rain Returns, many people have set out to inform the public of the game's various secrets, gameplay guides, lore synopses, and general useful commentary on the game. I am not one of those people. Instead, enjoy 10 minutes of absolutely useless information about Risk of Rain Returns. Also, small spoilers ahead. Acrid is the only survivor in Risk of Rain Returns who does not have some sort of head cover. The most common letter of all survivors in Risk of Rain Returns is R at 15 letters, for returns. Coincidence? Of the items in Returns, 14 have a pickup text that tells you exactly what the actual log description of the item says, or is very close to it with exact percentages and all that as applicable. 107 have pretty generally descriptive pickup texts that entail what they do without having exact stat numbers or omit certain effects, and 16 have a more comedic or vague pickup text that loosely describes the item or hints as to what it does. Chef is the only survivor with a mustache and eyebrows. Quite the savvy boy. There are 197 total logs in the full logbook of Risk of Rain Returns. Only 61 items and 1 survivor are unlocked by default in the original Risk of Rain, while 74 items and 2 survivors are unlocked by default in Risk of Rain Returns. Returns sports 5 new song additions, counting intermission even though it's only 13 seconds long, to the original Risk of Rain soundtrack, and remixes all 17 songs in the original Risk of Rain soundtrack. Plasma Chain has the longest item description in the game at 18 words, and ATG Missile, Strange Battery, and Toxic Centipede have the shortest descriptions at 1 word each. In Commencement, you can skip the pillars required to activate the lift up to the Mithrix fight with no items or equipment with Captain. Just use Captain's Diablo Strike around this spot or roughly anywhere around the rim of the lifted area and stand dead center in the impact zone. The knockback of the strike will propel you all the way up to the arena. In Risk of Rain 2. Providence, spelled backwards, is Ascendivorp. Considering there's probably a big debate over which survivor is objectively the strongest, and considering this is a useless debate, I'll pitch in my 2 cents. In terms of raw stats, the most useless metric to go off of, Huntress is the frailest with the least health at 90 and ties for the least health regen with half the survivor cast at 0.6 health per second. While the beefiest boy in terms of health is Mercenary with both the highest health stat at 122 and the tied highest health regen stat at 2.4 with Loader, although a close competitor Acrid is only 8 health short with the added bonus of 15 starting armor. Sniper has the highest starting damage at 15, and Loader has the lowest at 10, and all of the survivors share a starting speed stat of 28 kilometers per second. This is a pointless debate, as each survivor is so much more than their raw stats, including text, ability combinations, item synergies, and playstyle preferences, so while this may be seen by some as useful information, I deem it not, and here it stays. If your health bar falls below 0, you will die, and if it doesn't, you won't. The taller survivor in the game, going off of in-game sprites, is Chef. And yes, I am including his hat as part of him because without it, he would no longer be Chef. It is as integral to his character as a physical body part. If you don't think that counts, then Handy is the tallest. The shorter survivor in the game is technically Sniper, but I couldn't find a snapshot of them just standing normally as opposed to being crouched or crouch running. But honestly, very few survivors have an in-game sprite of them just straight-legged standing, so I decided I'd rather not go too deep into semantics and calculate the standing height of every survivor based off their idle pose, so I'm just calling it Sniper. A more, quote, acceptable shorter survivor would be Mercenary and Commando, who roughly tie and are mostly standing up, even though Merc looks to be in a bit more of a crouch position than Commando, so technically he would be your safest bet for shortest survivor. The most common letter of all the items in Risk of Rain Returns is E, and in the official wiki for the game, the Items tab just so happens to be listed after the Survivors tab. Meaning if we translate these 2 tabs in our most common letter code, we get R for survivors and E for items, as in returns. Coincidence? I think not! The artifact of Enigma rhymes with Sigma. The dancing golems on the Contact Light stage from the original Risk of Rain are still groovin' with the same theme song in the remake, but with updated graphics. Look at that high-res groovin'. Landing a killing blow with Chef's cook ability on Acrid unlocks a secret skin for Chef. In the item log section of the logbook, if you repeatedly exit and enter the logbook, you'll notice that on occasion some more rare items replace the usual supplies on the risers on the right, such as this crate of hobo feathers, this crate of foreign fruits, and what looks like the beating embryo item, although this could be a reference to something else that I'm missing. It takes approximately 3.39 seconds for the escape pod to land and you to exit and be able to move after starting a run. Only if I did miss any, about 13 of the who knows how many small holes and blocked off areas in the game's various maps are actually accessible and have something of value in them, while the rest just sit there and taunt you with a sizable enough space that looks like it would have an entrance and reward you for figuring out how to get in, but you can't get in, causing you to spiral and spend hours exploring and hitting every surface within the entire half of the map the space in question is in a fruitless effort to 100% a game you know you won't even so much as 50%. Anyway. According to Google Translate, Troc, an enemy in the game, is the Norwegian word for pulled. The only assumption I can gather from this is that in Google canon, Troc pulls massive game. Based on my limited calculations, when you interact with a teleporter to move on to the next stage, your coin count drops in 500 coin increments, or at a rate of about 6,327 coins per second, until you have 1,500 coins. And then your coin count goes down in 50 coin increments, or 535 coins per second from there until you're at 0. I have not yet had a run with 100,000 plus coins, so I'm not sure if there's a barrier above that where coins drain faster, but someone comment down below if that's the case. Also, my math is probably off, but I'm writing this while studying for finals, so my brain hurty, me no want to quadruple check. 12 of the 15 survivors in Risk of Rain Returns are biologically based life forms, while the other 3 are machine-based. If you take the first letter of each of the survivors in the game minus Chef, Commando, either Miner or Mercenary, Huntress or Handy, and Acrid or Artificer, you can remix the remaining letters and spell the word Blasphemy. Or if you take out Loader and add Commando or Chef, include both Huntress and Handy, and Artificer and Acrid back in, you can spell Beachheads. That makes 0 sense. Tiny imps have the most adorable icon art, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Each map in the original Risk of Rain, save for the final level, had 2 or 3 variants that were randomly chosen per run, while every map in Risk of Rain Returns has 6 unique variants, 3 or 4 more in contrast to the OG Risk of Rain, except for its final level which has 2 variants, which is still 1 more than the OG Risk of Rain. 8 of the 49 enemies in Risk of Rain Returns can fly, 20 can jump, 4 can climb, and the rest can move. It is possible to fall at the edges of 4 stages: Sky Meadow, Sunken Tomb, Temple of Elders, and Risk of Rain aka UES Contact Light. The longest ability cooldown in the game is Engineer's Auto Turret at 40 seconds, and the shortest is any of Handy's secondaries at 0 seconds, since you can immediately use your drones if you have any active. Of the artifacts in the game, 7 directly affect enemies, 1 affects survivor skills, 2 affect survivor stats, 4 affect items and equipment, and this one is also there. Interestingly enough, drones in Risk of Rain Returns do not inherit your items, but they will activate your on-kill effects such as Gasoline and Ceremonial Dagger. Selecting Drifter on the character select screen plays a little animation of a random item popping out of her bag, which can be any out of a pool of mortar tube, bundle of fireworks, HEG missiles, ukulele, and Dio's best friend. As an added layer of detail, the more common items of that pool will appear more often than the rare items. 12 of the 45 unlockable survivor skills in the game are not unlocked through completing a Providence Trial, while the rest are completed through completing Providence Trials. There are 21 different types of interactables that grant an item or equipment of some form. The ukulele item is the item that most resembles a ukulele out of all other items. There are a total of 115 items, 12 survivors, 11 stages, 26 enemies, and 12 bosses carried over from the original Risk of Rain to Risk of Rain Returns. And of that, these 2 items are altered versions of items in Risk of Rain reworked into Risk of Rain Returns, i.e. the names were altered. 1 survivor and 7 items are carried over from Risk of Rain 2 to Risk of Rain Returns, and 2 survivors, 16 items, 8 enemies, and 1 boss are completely unique to Risk of Rain Returns. Aside from the skin that every survivor gets for completing the Judgment Providence Trial, 6 survivors have additional skins unlocked through completing one of their respective Providence Trials. Bandit and Chef are the only 2 survivors in the game with a hat, not including helmets. Commando has the most Providence Trials of all survivors at 5 total, Enforcer is a runner-up at 4, and the rest of the cast only have 3. 7 artifacts can be gotten by just going to them, sometimes platforming, sometimes going through hidden entrance, etc. 5 are unlocked through pushing buttons in some way, shape, or form, and 2 are unlocked through achievements. If you take a screenshot of the full Providence Trial lineup, open the file in Microsoft Paint, full screen, and zoom out your screen to just about here, egg. The Ancient Scepter version of Miner's Utility, Starbound, is a reference to a game made by the original Risk of Rain's publisher, Chucklefish. Technically speaking, the Archer bug isn't really a bug due to it having only 4 legs. And since, from my extensive research, true bugs must have 6 legs, the Archer bug is 2 legs short. This means that while the Archer bug's description of it being an arthropod is correct, assuming they have no internal spine, are segmented, and have a hard exoskeleton, which looks to be the case visually, the comparison of the Archer bugs with bees or wasps displayed in the Archer bug's description is partially false, as bees and wasps have 6 legs and are insects. This game is not Risk of Rain Returns.
I'm curious.
No! I'm scared.
Chef is the only survivor that has 2 skills that share a name, with both being Marinate, the second helping variants of his utilities. Risk might seem like an innocuous strategy board game, but if you look very, very closely at both titles lined up in this exact fashion, you'll realize it's really just Risk of Rain Returns without the of Rain Returns. Coincidence? You have just completed listening to about 10 minutes of absolutely useless information about Risk of Rain Returns. Congratulations! I hope this video provided absolutely no help in any form or fashion in your Risk of Rain Returns endeavors. Let me know in the comments if you have any more useless information I didn't cover, and have a hopefully much more productive rest of your day. See you on the next one. Bye.